All right, that means we're live.
We're live.
So the last one we did was 23 minutes. And honestly, how long did it seem like?
23 minutes.
It seemed like seconds.
No, it's seconds.
Seconds.
Flew by.
3 minutes. So he's been to my house on New Year's. We used to go to your house
For Super Bowl.
back in the old days for the Super Bowl party.
Right. Well, and then see the story behind that is Kim and I, we had Connor.
Had Connor.
And
16 years ago, almost to the day.
Right, and so we had Connor, and who just got his driver's license, and he was born on February 1st. Well, if you know the way the calendar lies,
right,
the Super Bowl is always usually the first weekend or so.
Sometimes it's on February 1st.
So we kind of scrapped the Super Bowl party to have
Connor.
Well, no, he was born. He was born. To have Connor's birthday party. So, and he would have birthday parties like a bowling party with his friends, or his friends would come over. So it was just like we kind of like pushed that aside. We have to resurrect that. He's 16 now. He doesn't even want to stay at home. So.
Well, and it is at that point. Now your oldest child's name is
Kyle, who's 35.
Who's 35,
Alex
and your
is
daughter
32.
Okay.
And that's from part one of this. That's the new grandbaby Maple.
Okay.
M-A-P-L-E.
So let's go back.
And then Kim's boy Cody lives in
Yes.
Chicago, and he's a real estate agent.
Really?
So
Okay.
like I said in part one, we have the yours, mine, and ours. And the
Right.
ours has been a blessing. I
Yes.
mean, Connor basically kind of cemented both sides of our family together,
Right.
not just grandparents, but
Right.
aunts and uncles and all that
Right.
stuff.
And even Daniel.
And even Daniel.
Because Daniel's.
Todd's boy Daniel, too.
You know, because everybody says something about divorce and this and that and everything else. But I'm
everything
like,
happens for a reason.
yeah,
So-
can you imagine life on the planet without Connor?
Nope.
And Daniel's not yours, but
No,
you can't
same
imagine
thing.
life without Daniel. I go places.
And
Connor,
we'll all be together for Kyle's wedding, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
both families will be together, and that'll just be a great thing.
So your daughter's wedding, that was like in Santa Monica?
Yeah, it was about 3.5 years ago.
Did you cry?
Yes. Walked her down the aisle and cried. Yeah, it was gorgeous.
So there's something about men. We're
Well, men used to be afraid to admit that they cried. Nowadays, we have no problem.
Oh,
with
so
that.
they did cry.
But you just never admit it. You don't see back. How many old sitcoms or anything do you see back from the 60s or 70s or whatever that you see guys crying? None.
No, Red Fox maybe.
Now you have shows like This Is Us. They cry on cue.
Oh,
like every 5
that's
minutes.
the stupidest damn show ever on television. I don't know why they.
But it's like, when you're gonna
have
cry?
it.
When you're gonna cry?
Yeah.
You know,
well,
so.
Jack's gonna die, and he doesn't die, and he doesn't die, and he doesn't die, and then there's a fire. He still doesn't die.
This is how we get off topic when Chris and I are together. It's like a tree with branches,
Yeah.
and it just
goes and goes and goes. Yeah. So then you get told that you're going to be a grandfather.
Yeah.
That was like say 2 years later.
Well, let's even back up. Let's
Okay.
even back up when I was told I was going to be a father again. Kim and I were at the lake, and we thought she was seasick. Okay, because we didn't think we were going to have any kids together.
Right.
Okay, so we're going back 16 and a half years ago, almost 17 years ago, and we come home, we go to the hospital, and a lot of people will remember Mark Brodeur used to be the CEO of the hospital, and him and Sherry, and I think Sherry was at the hospital at the time, but we go to the ER, and they have every test run known to mankind why Kim doesn't feel well. The last test they run
Was pregnancy.
is the pregnancy test, at that time, back in those days, we still had to sign paychecks, okay?
Oh, yeah,
It wasn't
right.
electric. So I left the hospital and left my phone, because we didn't really have portable phones back then. I think I might have had a phone
Had a
in the
bag
car
phone
or
or
something
something.
like that. And I came to the radio station to sign checks because Debbie Freund worked for us here at the radio
Debbie,
station.
love Debbie.
And Debbie got a hold of me and said, honey, because she started every sentence with honey, you need to come and sign paychecks. There's people here that like to get paid.
Right.
So I left the hospital. Well, in the meantime, they come in with the results to tell Kim that she's pregnant. You got to understand, at this time, I'm in my 40s.
Right.
Okay, Kim's 11 years younger than me. So she thinks I am going to just freak out that we're going to have another child. So when I finally got to the radio station, Debbie is sitting at the desk. Kim has already called her. So
Debbie
Debbie
knows?
knew before I knew. When I walked in the door, I was like, Deb, I'm here to sign paychecks. She goes, honey, just go back. Go back. Go back to the hospital. Go back to. I got to sign. I can sign your name. I've done it long enough. I can sign your name. So she knew. So when I got back, Kim was crying because she didn't know how I would take this. So she told me, and I almost felt my knees buckle because I just didn't. I was already in this mindset like we were, but Connor has been the best thing that ever happened.
Well, you skipped the crying part. So she tells you, you go in.
Yes.
She tells you that she's pregnant.
Right, and I start crying and my knees buckle.
And your knees buckle.
Right. Well, because I didn't know, I really didn't think we were going to have any more kids at that point, But I've known friends of mine, Rick Fisher, who've had children at a late age, and Rick Fisher,
and Rick, we want Rick's likes the sunrise with us too,
right?
So,
and it's been great. I mean, so there's a lot to be said. I think when I was younger, and
I'm worried about the screen.
Oh, you're worried about the screen? Well, here we can just
No, that's fine.
Let's just do that.
Okay.
So, it's not like your computer. Nothing's going to pop up with that we can't see. But it's when you're younger having kids.
Yes.
You're still kind of a kid too, to where you might want to go out. I'm going to go with the guys to the ball game. When I had Connor, I was all about Connor.
Right.
I was all about, hey buddy, let's go go-karting. Let's go to the ball game together.
Right.
Let's go. I want to show you how to use a golf club. I'm not a big fisherman, but we would go to West City Park.
Right.
And then we got into Legos. That's how we got
into the Legos. And I'm gonna ask my wife if you want to keep listening to us talk. She's gonna show you a bunch, a fraction of the Legos.
Yeah, and what Linda's showing you right now that's a Porsche. It's a Lego. It's an adult Lego set, and that's the Porsche. And then over on this credenza, Linda, over here, there's a Lamborghini and a Bugatti over here. And these things, they're not cheap, but I was a model builder, Chris, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And back in those days, you had the glue and the tester's paint. And all.
Right.
The Lego adult sets like this are so cool because you can build them without having to wait for things to dry or whatever. So, and I kind of got into this when my older kids, they got into Legos, but then they kind of got out of it pretty quick.
Right.
Connor and I, right now we're building a Lego typewriter, a working, full, retro-looking typewriter.
Wow.
I've built the Lego grand piano, which plays.
Right.
Which plays, and Bluetooth from your phone for the audio and stuff, and the keys actually move and everything. And then the one set that Kim and Connor surprised me with for Father's Day is the Lego Titanic, which is 5 feet long. In fact, we're going to have to build a shelf at the house. And we've built Disney castles, we've built Death Stars, we've built Eiffel Towers, the Taj Mahal.
It's incredible, all your stuff.
And we have them spread over the house.
And Connor actually would still stay there with you. Yeah. And it was like a together.
It was like a together thing because you put all the Legos in the little Tupperware bowls, and then you have the different sets and the different steps and stuff, and the books. I mean, no one uses phone books anymore, by the way. But the books are like 2 and 3 of these books.
That's the instruction manual.
The instruction manual. Wow. They're enormous.
Wow.
And so so I find myself now, it's relaxing. A lot of people, I like to play golf. I like to do, a lot of people say, what's your hobbies? It's like, this might sound silly.
Right.
But I like building Legos of these kind of sets. And Connor and I have been to Lego conventions, and you see as many adults there as you do kids.
Right.
Funny story, we were watching, and I told somebody this the other day, we were watching on Netflix or something like a documentary about Legos and stuff. Okay. Connor and I went to a convention before this documentary, and we heard dads talking about, there was all these dads standing around the booth going, look, there's a 1x5, there's a 1x5, there's a 1x5. Well, if anybody knows anything about Legos, 1x5s are, Legos have those little knobs at the top. So it's 1 wide, 5 long. Okay. Lego doesn't make a 1x5. Oh. They don't make a 1x5. If you need a 1x5 in your instructions, you're going to use a 1x4 and a 1x1 or a 1x2, okay. So we're watching the Netflix documentary, and all these guys, a 1x5 is a code word for hot girls. Is that insane?
So you're thinking, wow, these guys are way into
there's a 1x5. There's and goes, well, that explains it, Dad. Okay, I'd have never guessed that. But and they guys like me. The nickname for guys like me is AFOL. That's AFO, adult fan of Lego.
Okay.
AFOL. Don't get that wrong. AFOL. So, it is fun though. And I haven't had anybody ever say, oh, that's for kids. No, some of these sets are very complicated. They're very cool and very complicated.
Have the patience.
So it's fun. And we've had, we've done some different, we have articles written about Connor and I doing the Lego stuff. We've been so that's kind of our Lego story. It's kind of cool.
So I can honestly say my dad never did any of that stuff with me. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I did that much with my kids.
You never sat still.
Well, when my son was how old was Kyle? 9 when we started making wine. So
that's another Chris Hagan.
So
Tim Lewis, Police Chief Tim Lewis, son making wine at 9.
Tim Lewis, the guy that blows
Chris
stuff
Hagan,
up.
his address is.
So yeah,
I'm sure they know where you live.
Tim, I don't know if you've ever been to my house or not, but anyway.
Well, now.
Anyway, so you made Legos, we made wine. It's kind of the same.
There
thing.
You go.
It's kind of the same thing. And then my son got all into the wine and then the bartender, and now he's just turned 29, and everything's going okay. So Connor just turned 16. You know what happened to you when you turned 16?
Yeah,
because we got cars, and that's the last our parents saw of us.
Yeah, and I didn't. It's funny because he got his license, and we gave him we had an extra car at the house, and he said, "Dad, this is perfect. I'll take that car." So I was thinking the other day, and all of a sudden Connor was like, Dad, you don't have to take me to school anymore.
That's right.
And it just dawned on me.
You've already been through this twice.
Right. It just dawned on me that, he's right. I don't have, actually 4 times, because I used to run Cody to school too.
Oh, that's right.
And so that's when it hit me, because where we live, FESTUS school is kind of on the way to the radio station. Yeah. So I'm just so used. The bus comes in front of our house, but it's like, we have a little bonding time, 5-10 minutes in the morning.
Right.
I won't have that anymore.
Nope, it's gone forever.
So, yeah, I will kind of miss that.
Right.
We just kind of, I like to talk to them in the morning. Kids sometimes aren't still waking up in the morning at 7 o'clock. Shut up, Dad.
And this radio station is talk radio, and I know that there's different radio stations.
Yeah, our FM's country, and we can all
these different things.
Right.
But this is a happy radio station. It's not like you got the hard-headed, alien investigative. Everything around here is, you're reporting tragedy.
Right. And we talked on part 1 about the radio station, but when I came here, one of the first things I did was this radio station used to be a country radio station when it was KJCF.
Really?
Woolly Wally. A lot of people know Woolly Wally. Right. The Wrights, Dave and Doc Wright, own this radio station.
Yes.
But it was a country AM.
Okay.
Well, everything I had read in the late 80s was AM radio is all about information. Right. So there's a big radio station in St. Louis that everybody knows about KMOX. Like the voice of St. Louis.
Right.
I wanted to turn KJFF into like the talk of Jefferson County. I wanted us to make us relevant. I wanted us to have news, information, sports. In fact, you even do a promo for us that we run on the air.
Right.
And so that's basically why we converted or changed this radio station to that. And now that we stream, because we always had
I listen to it on my iPhone.
We always had signal issues because any radio station at the high end of the dial, which we're at 1400, always has a signal issue where it doesn't go out as far as you'd like it to go out.
Okay.
Now, with Odyssey, TuneIn Radio, your Alexa device, mymoinfo.com, you can pick up KJFF, any radio station, anywhere.
Right.
So we don't have that issue at all.
Well, and again, that evolution of the radio stuff. But again, everything was kind of happy here. But you also bring in different guests and things. But back to the Connor and your kids and my kids and everybody that's watching kids, as you go through life, absolutely. And sometimes it's the last thing that you're doing with your kids, like you say, taking them to school. And you kind of know that they're going to get their driver's license. You know they're going to get the kid. And you know they're going to want to drive. But it's still not real until it actually happens.
It didn't hit me till he said it.
Yes.
He was like, Dad, you don't have to take me to school anymore. And it was like, which is such an obvious comment.
Right.
And all of a sudden it was just like, I just kind of stood there and was like, I don't.
Right.
You know?
Well, and we're talking about the olden days of how radio was. It used to be you could go in and walk your kindergarten, first, second, third grader into school. All right, so you actually went in, all the parents, I mean, it was just like a high school reunion every single day with all the different people that were going in and out of the schools. And then we had the deal when your kids got to middle school where suddenly you had to drop the kid off down the block because they didn't want to be seen with you.
Or like me, I went to a Catholic grade school, I had to wear a uniform. We had to wear the little clip-on. So I went, for those of you that are familiar with St. Louis at all, and we talked on the first interview where I lived by Uncle Bill's Pancake House, I went to grade school at a school and a church called Holy Innocents.
Holy Innocents.
Didn't take. And it was across from Tower Grove Park.
Yeah.
Okay?
And
I had to wear the little clip-on tie and the little white shirt, and we had to wear the uniform.
Right.
And then, even back in those days, I was telling somebody the other day, is you know how busy South Kings Highway is, okay? And Tower Grove Park's there. I'm in 4th grade. So what's that put me? 9 years old, probably?
Right.
I am crossing guard. We used to have the orange thing, like the orange crossing guard. I was out there stopping 6 lanes of traffic so the kids could go across the street. Right. You would never do that now.
Well, no, they would just...
No, I mean, but it was so... I used to walk when I was 10 years old, I walked to school. Walked along South Kings Highway, which you would never do that anymore.
No, everything keeps changing, and I always ask, well, what's next? What's next? What's next? Because, when we've all just gone through the coronavirus, and now there's monkeypox, and everything's just like, what next? There's always something. So I kind of have to line up a little bit with the conspiracy people, because there's always something, but I also don't line up with conspiracy. They're like, people aren't that smart.
So do you think, let me ask you this. So do you think our kids will someday use the term back in our day?
Absolutely.
Because we always say back in our parents always say back in our day, back in our. So what will be known for the kids for this time back in this day?
Well, obviously, we were right there.
Interviewer and me coming out.
We were right there when Pong came out. Right? We were right there when it went from 8-track cassette or 8-track to a cassette tape, So back in our day,
get a bump and the song would move.
And if there was only one good song on the Dr. Hook 8-track, you had to wait forever.
And hopefully it didn't fade down, click, and fade back
in the middle of a song.
In the middle of
a song.
Why did they call it 8-track when there was only?
And there was only 4.
Because tracks were in stereo. So 4 times 2 makes 8.
Okay, so that's how they blended it to get that. Well, because 8-track was, and still.
Why do they call it news? Why do they call it news?
I don't know.
North, east, west, and south.
North.
Things you learn.
East. News. North, east. South.
All points of the globe.
Wow. Okay, did not know that. Okay.
We're educating your Hagan Experience viewers.
Well, and like
some people debate that. Some people debate the news thing, and they say that's not true. But let's think about it. What other 4 letters make it? It's like yes, that's where that came from.
You go back to
me.
You go back to the origins of everything, and but then you had the cassette tape player, and then remember they had the auto reverse.
Yeah, then they had the adapters too.
Where you could shove that inside of an 8-track and put your cassette.
You could get a portable CD player. They made those portable, almost like a Sony Walkman, but you could play it through your car because the portable CD player was about yay big, and it had a cord that went to a cassette, and you put the cassette into your car, so the head of the cassette would go and you just thought. This is it. This is the neatest thing. Of course, when you hit a bump, everything would skip.
Right.
Nothing you could do about that.
And I lived in Bonne Terre. I lived in Terre de Lac, so we didn't get a whole lot of good radio reception anyway. So we were kind of forced to listen to the 8-tracks and the cassettes.
I knew a guy with a turntable in his car. He had a van and a turntable in his car.
I bet he did have a van.
He did. Probably care about the
turntable. It had shag carpet on the walls.
My father, who was a banker, and you mentioned that in part 1. My father was a banker, and they used to repossess cars.
Yes.
One of the cars that he repossessed, that he ended up buying, was a tricked out van with the airbrush palm trees like on the sides and the 2 little windows in the back, had a sink in there. I sat in this van counting the days to my driver's license because this was going to be
If you can get a girl into that van, she's just gonna love you because
when you have the disclaimer at the bottom of it.
You pull up and the dad's like, "Oh hell no, you're in the that car with that."
And to go along with what you just said, the day I got my driver's license, I came home, van was gone. My dad was like, "I sold it." Why? Your mother made me. I never got to experience got to experience it. I had a friend of mine that had a pickup truck with a cover, and he put a water bed in the back of the pickup truck. And this had a pull-out bed. This had black light. Had a black light. Had the carpet that would glow, and had black light posters. Do you remember black light posters?
Oh.
Some of them used to have velvet or like a.
Oh yeah.
That made them look made them look 3D. This had that in there too.
Yeah.
Sold it all.
Yeah. There used to be people selling like velvet. They used to be selling like velvet Elvis pictures and stuff like that along the road. I mean, it was everywhere you went. You went on a road trip. You went past 30 of those between here and Florida. Right. All right. I don't know how many minutes we are, but if you're ever, we should just have like a YMCA auction where. For $1,000, you get an evening with Chris.
Well, we'll just sit at the restaurant. We can bring the retro. We can bring the retro mic in and just drop it from the ceiling.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of great times, great friends, stuff that might have. Said that's it. We're never gonna be around the Hagans again. It was like, well, we gotta have them back over immediately. Stuff
that we've done that we couldn't believe we've done. We've laughed about later, you know. So
well, we laugh about. We go out on his boat, and then on the way back from a cove. Well, on the way back from a cove, and of course, I'm not allowed to honk the horn or steer the boat or do anything.
No.
And we're leaving, and I'm looking off to the side because we keep hearing a thump and a thump.
Well, because Linda and Kim kept saying, "There's a thump, there's a thump, there's a thump."
Yeah.
And it was.
So I look over the side, and about every 4 seconds, this giant anchor comes flying up. And your anchor, when we were parked in the cove,
because you didn't do your job. I asked you.
I was Gilligan.
You were Gilligan, and I was the skipper. And I said, Chris, we were in Party Cove.
We were not in Party Cove. We were by Party Cove.
The story's better.
You had to have the Webb Space Telescope to see somebody.
Well, the boat was big, so we couldn't go up to. Okay,
so I needed the Hubble Space Telescope to see what the hell was going on at the other end, and we still hooked somebody else's anchor.
Right. So basically, we hooked somebody else's anchor on our anchor, and then Chris, when we got back,
back to the boat slip, which had at 90 feet. That's how deep the water was. It was 90 feet.
And I'm a horrible swimmer, so it's like
I'm a great swimmer.
You go in. You go in and unwrap. I will lower the original anchor. So you can unwrap.
I can unwrap it.
The other anchor.
Right. And so I got a hold of the anchor, and I'm wrapping the other anchor
in the water while
Linda,
Kim, and I are looking down
under my arm.
And you're looking up like Leonardo DiCaprio.
I let go, and that's exactly what it was. I'm going under
because
my ears.
The anchor, the last loop you did, and we all looked at each other like, what's he gonna do when he finally gets the rope off and he has like a 30-pound anchor attached to him?
Yeah.
Well, we saw your head go down.
And my eyes are wide open. And I'm watching everybody leave.
The bubbles coming out of your nose. And none of us moved. We just looked. We just stared at the water.
Yeah, so I was all I was all wrapped up in this rope, and I'm sinking fast, and I scuba dive, so I know that I'm in trouble.
Right.
So somehow
we all knew that.
Somehow or other, and also if you scuba dive or snorkel or anything, once you're so deep, when you look up, you have no depth perception as to how far is it to the surface. You might be this close to the surface, or you could be 30 feet from the surface. You can't really tell.
Right.
And so I dove down and pulled myself deeper, got the rope off of me, and then
we were concerned. I mean, we all looked, and I think Linda looked at Kim and I and said, "Where are we going for dinner?" I mean,
it's 90 feet, and
how's that insurance policy working out?
Pretty sure where he's.
But you survived. You came back up, and here you are in my office.
Well, so I survived a lot because a lot happened on that
or later with Hagan experience.
A lot happened.
This just wet your whistle.
Yeah,
That's story number one.
That was not the funniest thing that
No.
happened. And then we get pulled over by the highway patrol.
Yeah, that's a whole nother one. And then you were on the
And I get in a
and then
fight
you're on the
with the
nose of
highway-
the boat on a windy day. So
And we never were invited back to the boat.
we sold it. We had to have it fumigated. We had to get rid of it. So there you go.
Okay, well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Literally, he wins the award for the greatest son, the way you took care of your parents.
Well, thank you.
You've given everybody a goal that no one can live
Well,
up
thank
to,
you.
and you did a great job. Great father, great friend, love you. Future pallbearer if I go first, and there's been times.
There's my body. There's my body.
And there's been times when we thought I was going to be gone, and I still managed. It was like three times.
the lake.
3 times in one trip. So, hey, press like and share and say something nice about my friend Kirk. Thank you.